think we're on. We're on the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I'm your host, Mark Ross, and with me this morning is Edoardo. Say your last name, sir.
Guidali.
Guidali. Edoardo Guidali. Did I say that right? Did I get that?
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Not easy.
No. Eduardo is a relationship coach. Uh, he's based out of Switzerland, but he's from Italy. So the accent is very real, ladies and gentlemen. The accent is very real. Eduardo, thank you once again for taking the time to speak with me about your profession and just you in general. So my first question that I like to ask you is, you as a relationships coach, what made you get into that line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, because of personal experience, because of personal struggles with my own family.
Mm.
It all goes back to a couple of years ago when me and my family were having lots of issues, or at least lots of issues manifested in a very strong way, because it was a very difficult period for all of us. It was the time in which my grandfather was hospitalized, and we were doing shifts to go to the hospital and take care of him. But the point is that we had problems for all of our lives as a family, but we never talked about them, we never managed them. And so it was in this period of my life in which I was rethinking what do I want to do in my life, that I decided I want to do something different. And I got the idea of getting all the family sitting together at the table and talking about our issues for the first time.
Mm.
And at the time, it sounded very crazy and it encountered lots of skepticism. I remember my sister saying, Eduardo, it's going to be a catastrophe. Or my mother saying, yeah, I appreciate the intention, but I don't think that it's going to bring us anywhere. So I found myself being the moderator of these meeting, or as I like to call them, these family reunions. And we started talking. So in the role of the moderator, I was responsible for choosing a topic to help people communicate with each other. And I started seeing lots of patterns, lots of things that could have been done better during these meetings. For example, not interrupting each other's, making sure that everybody understands everyone's perspectives.
Mm.
And I started really enjoying it. And I saw how it really was transforming our family dynamics, because we were really talking about the hard stuff, the difficult topics that we never talked about. And I was finding ways in which it wasn't so difficult to talk about all these very challenging topics for us. And so I started this, we kept doing these family reunions on a weekly basis for a couple of months, and the improvements were incredible. I mean, we had some serious issues that went back almost a couple of decades. And we were able to, maybe not work everything out, but we were able to work the most important things out. And that was astonishing for everybody. Um, at that time, we didn't have a vacation together for almost 10 years. And just 6 months after these meetings, these reunions, so we went for the first time together to Paris, and we had an amazing vacation. Um, so I realized that I really enjoyed being the moderator of these family reunions, and I really saw the value of them firsthand because as a family we suffered so much because of the distance, because of the issues that have been growing for so many years. And when we were able to talk about them, when we were able to solve them through these methodologies that I found out, we felt so much better as a family. And I think that everyone can relate to it, that there is nothing better in the world than feeling good and comfortable with the members of your families, especially if you struggle with some of them. You can imagine how it could be a huge relief to suddenly get along with them and to feel good in their presence. So I had the idea of starting this company because I really saw a very big value in what I did with my family, and I said it would be amazing to do this also for other families because honestly, most families they don't really talk, or most relationships, most people in a relationship they don't really talk about problems because nowadays in our society we see conflicts as something bad. We see problems in our relationship or in family as something bad, so we try to avoid them at all costs. And what happens is that they always grow bigger and bigger with time. And this is what I see with most family. Maybe there is balance, maybe there is some degree of harmony, but that's because they are walking on eggshells. That's because they are not talking about the problems, and they are just, trying to be polite and get along. You know. So this is why I decided, okay, let's give it a try. And so in the beginning of 2024, we created this company, and since then, I have been helping people in relationships and families to start the conversation and to learn what healthy communication looks like.
Okay.
So this was my story.
Okay. What's the name of your company?
The name of my company is the same name as my full name, so Edoardo Guidali.
Okay. Okay. Uh, and you said some interesting things, some good things about how people walk on eggshells because they
Mhm.
wanna they wanna be polite or get along just to make the day go by a bit better. And you mentioned something about letting people talk uninterrupted.
Mm.
That's important, brother, because uh,
No.
even with a man to man conversation, right? We could be talking and you can interrupt me like middle of the sentence, or I can interrupt you, and that's very disrespectful to a point. You know what I'm saying? And
No.
so and so when and I'm there's a lot of things that I'm still learning too, but when people talk, you be quiet and listen. And it's hard. I think it's hard for some people to not judge
Mm.
because you do have to walk on eggshells sometimes, bro. You do have to fluff the words because people may not take the message that you're trying to convey in an appropriate manner. I mean, I could tell you to put the cup down. You know, you might respond say, "Why you want me to put the cup?" You know what I'm saying? It's just I don't know, semantics, I guess. But there can be issues with that in terms of
Mm.
having to walk on eggshells and also to let people talk uninterrupted. But I want to ask you, brother Eduardo, how do you help people express themselves to their significant others or spouses, without that fear of their reaction.
Absolutely. You are touching a very important point. So the fear of the reaction is something that blocks so many people from talking about something in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what I usually teach my clients, the people that I work with, is to create a safe place. Because creating a safe place with your significant other, with your family to have a conversation is the most important thing. So many times when we talk about problems, we do it in a very aggressive way. So we are attacking each other's. And so what happens is that when I come up with a problem with you and I attack you, you are going to feel on the defense. So you're going to put a wall against me because you are being attacked. So what I say to my clients is you need to switch perspective. Instead of attacking each other when you have a problem, just try to come at the table with a white flag. So you need to set a positive intention. You need to tell the other person that you see that there are some issues and that you would like to work together for the well-being, of the relationship, of the family, to solve these issues. So you move from accusing someone of being responsible of a situation and attacking someone to creating a team. So, and when you put things in this way, the other person feels like, okay, I'm not attacked. Let's try to solve this situation together. So the most important thing is really to set the right intention because many times during conflicts, we go about it the wrong way. We think, okay, there is a problem. I'm right. You are wrong. Let me show you how you are wrong and how I am the victim of all this situation. But the problem is that in this way, you are not working together. And to solve problems in a relationship, you need to work together. So this
Yeah.
is the first thing. The second thing is that helps so many people is again shifting the perspective to unconditional love, because so many times we are afraid of rejection. We are afraid of abandonment. That's why we don't tell our significant others certain
Mm-hmm.
things. What
Mm-hmm.
if she finds out and then she doesn't like me anymore, and she's going to abandon me? These are like huge obstacles to having a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is that you need to understand that in a family or in a relationship, you should love the other person unconditionally. And this means that no matter what you are going to say, no matter what the other person is going to find out about you, the love that unite the two of you, that cannot be broken because this is the nature of unconditional love. And the same is in a family. No matter what your kids are going to do, whether they become successful lawyers or for some very unfortunate reason they become drug addicts, you will always love your children. There is
Mm-hmm.
nothing that you can do about it because
Right. Right.
they're your kids.
Yeah.
Um, you needed to approach the conversation with positive intention, so you're working as a team, as opposed as we have a problem and some of us is going to be the winner and the other person the loser. And then remind yourself that uh, what binds the two of you cannot be shaken by finding something about you that the other person didn't know.
Okay. I get that. And you mentioned something about for lack of a better phrase, you mentioned people's past traumas and how it affects
Absolutely.
their views on relationships. And I'm glad that you brought up that topic, because my next question is about that. So relationships can be difficult because of unresolved trauma or issues that people have encountered growing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you help people that have these traumas get past those in order to strengthen their relationships and themselves for that matter?
Absolutely. I'm really proud of what I do because trauma is so meaningful in relationships and in families. It affects relationships and families at a very deep level. And so healthy communication is extremely important because you can create a support group, within your own family, within your own relationship, when you're able to talk about everything with each others. And having that support can really make a huge difference in overcoming trauma. So the most important thing when you talk about trauma is that you need to make everybody aware that you can unintentionally hurt each others. And why is that? Because many times traumas are related to some situations, to some objects, and the other person might not be aware that you were traumatized in the past. Maybe you didn't talk about it, or maybe you always avoided talking about it. So when the other person approaches the subjects that are related to trauma in a way that is not appropriate, in a way that is not delicate, because they don't know about the underlying trauma, they can hurt the other person. And the point is that what I see very often is that people tend to take things too much personal.
Mm,
So, for example, when someone is angry at you or shouts at you for no reasons, or at least the reasons that you cannot understand, many people take that personal, very personally. They think, why is this person shouting at me? This is so wrong. I have done nothing wrong. So I always stress the importance of developing healthy communication habits, because without communication, you cannot understand why the other person got angry, why the other person is shouting at you. And instead, you take that personally and you go nowhere. So, with so many families, many times problems they come out of absolutely or apparently normal discussions.
mhm.
And then is where I go deeper and I try to find out the reasons for these reactions. And the point is that most of the times, the people who talk about these traumatic events that triggered a response in the other person, they were completely unaware of what they were doing. And what I help people realize is that you can really unintentionally hurt the person in front of you, your special someone, with your words. And it's extremely important that you put aside, your ego, and you start thinking, okay, why is this person hurt? They say something that upset this person. Why is that? Because many times I think they get just lost in translation. Uh, you get angry at me, I get angry at you because I didn't do anything wrong, and that hurts the relationship. And one way, to get to know the reasons, for these reactions and help the people with the trauma to heal is really not interrupting one another, and to give each other the space and the time to express ourselves. Because what happens is that in so many instances, when we have conflicts and we start trying to talk about it, we keep jumping on each other's, we keep interrupting each other's, and so we don't give each other enough space to really express, your feelings, your emotions, and at the same time, when we keep interrupting each other's, we are not listening to each other's, which is also extremely important. And I always say that to my clients. Whenever you are in a relationship, whenever you are in a family, you need to think of it as you are making a puzzle together, and you don't have all the pieces um, on your own to make the puzzle. So everybody has different pieces. And so to make the puzzle together, you need to listen to each other. You need to learn from each other. And this is something that I see so many times, that people in relationships and in families, they don't learn from each other. They don't listen to each other. And as a result, they don't really know each other.
Mm.
So really getting to know each other, not interrupting every time that someone is trying to say something, developing a good habit of not taking things personally and instead of trying to understand what's going on with the other person. These are all little but very important steps that can help you understand the other person, the traumatic events that they have gone through, and really start supporting them in their healing journey.
Okay. Okay. I, I'm going to share a quick story about myself, just to put things in perspective of what we're talking about. Uh, Myself growing up, I guess you could say I experienced uh, a trauma, if you will, because my mother and uh, my stepfather, I call him my dad, but he was my stepfather, and the relationship dynamic was, uh, I wouldn't say it was a good one, because my mom was the aggressive one and my stepdad was the passive one. He was the one that you mentioned. He had to walk on eggshells because he didn't want to stir up the pot, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. So that gave me the opposite effect, that I had to be the aggressor because I didn't want nobody to treat me like my mom treated him. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I wasn't I'm saying that to say that I wasn't abusive verbally. I'm still not. I wasn't abusive or disrespectful at all to anybody. You know what I mean? But there was a there was a point that I wouldn't tolerate.
Right.
You cross that level, I'm cutting you short. You you're walking out. It's just no end of discussion. Uh, and I found myself realizing that I carried on that trauma, right? So I had to let that go, that survival mode. I had to let that go because a lot of people, Eduardo, we're in survival mode when it comes to relationships, when it comes to social dynamics, because we're damaged. We're damaged. So we carry that baggage and that damage in relationships and social circles, and we don't understand why our social circles are so broken. That people look at us funny, and that our relationships don't survive. we have to take into account of the stuff that we had to envision and the stuff that we are doing because of what we've experienced. I think that was, loosely, it was something that you brought up about our past experiences, our past issues, and how it does have an effect on our future relationships.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, in terms of relationships, I'm going to read off this statistic to you, and then I'm going to ask a question. Stats show that about 70% of new relationships end within the first year, and around 20% of couples break up after 5 years. Have you ever spoken to couples or anybody that fit that statistic, that they were going through problems within their first year or anytime between that fifth year?
Well, absolutely. The fact is that, as you said, the experiences that we had in our own family have a huge impact on how we are going to move forward in our relationships if we don't resolve them the way that you did. And this is very normal because when we are little, when we are babies or children, we see our parents behave in a certain way, like you did. You either go into the direction of being passive, or you go into the direction of being aggressive. And for you, it's a matter of survival. And this of course affects you. It's not your fault. It's not your parents' fault because they're also doing the best that they can
True.
most of the times. This is another very important point that we can talk about later. But yes, all of these unresolved traumatic experiences that are related to our childhood, when unresolved, they create, of course, the same exact problems in our future relationships. And this is why we are talking about generational patterns or even generational traumas. Because more often than not, what happens, the problems that you encounter as a child, if you don't resolve them, are going to be the same problems that you are going to transmit to your own children. And this is what I see and what you can see also very often. The point in the work that I do is that I wanted to break these generational traumas, these generational patterns. And I wanted to help people resolve these problems within the family and within the relationships. And many times when I talk with the people in relationships, you need to go back to what happened in your own family, and maybe you want even to talk with your family members to resolve your own issues. And this is what happened with my own family. We had unresolved issues that were affecting, our trust in other people, that were impacting relationships that we were in at the time. So it's very important. I also sometimes help people that are not in a romantic relationship, let's say friendship. And there was the case of this friendship that was going off the rails. And one of the person in the relationship approached me and told me, I don't know what to do anymore. We have grown distant, and I feel like this person is disrespecting me, all of these things. So the point is that you want to create um, a safe environment in which you can talk, and from then, um, what I see in my experiences, all these traumas that you are talking about, they emerge on their own because when you feel safe, because without feeling safe, you cannot talk about your traumas. You
Mm.
know, if someone is being disrespectful for you and you don't feel safe with that person, you are not going to tell that person about,
Not at
what
all.
made you suffer in the past, of
Mm-mm.
course. But when you feel like there is someone in front of you that is listening to you, that gives you time, that gives you space, that is there not to prove you wrong, but to understand you and to work with you to solve the issue. This is what I see all the times with all the people that I work with. As soon as there is this mental switch, as soon as they feel like, okay, I feel comfortable in a safe place. These things they just rush out, in different forms, like in the forms of tears, in the forms, but they are the first things that come out. They're the first thing that come out, and it's usually extremely healthy. It's extremely helpful for these people because so many people have never found themselves in a safe space in their own family or in their own relationship. And for them, it's such a relief, you know, and it's so healing. So, yes, I totally understand these statistics. And yeah, I see that communication is really a problem in relationships and in families nowadays. And when you see conflicts as something negative, of course, the relationship is doomed either to fail or to stagnate. Fake harmony, fake balance, walking on eggshells, because conflicts should not be seen as a negative things. Conflicts are a normal part of relationships. I actually see conflicts in a positive way because conflicts are essential for the relationship to grow. You know,
Mm.
I can tell you with my own family, without having problems and conflicts with them, we wouldn't have gotten to know each other the way that we did. When we talk about conflicts because of a traumatic event, you know, I'm like, it's very good that there is conflict now because this is the way that this traumatic event is coming up to the surface. And now we can deal with it. We can support the healing process. But without acknowledging problems, without acknowledging conflicts, you are just stagnating. You are going nowhere. So yes, this is unfortunately the mentality of most people. Conflict is bad, and it's a problem of the society as a whole. And it's something that is also reinforced, I think, in our culture, in our medias, and in movies, in TV series. Conflict is always seen as a bad thing. But if you notice, every happy ending, every improvement in relationships come when you finally sit down and get together and be like, okay, there is conflict. Let's find a way to solve it.
Mm. Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right. The best way to get through something is to go through something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And it helps build your character too. Yeah. When you face the conflict in a positive manner, it's you don't you don't react to the conflict, you deal with the conflict.
Absolutely. I could make a very interesting example. I don't know if you can relate, but have you ever taken a test or have you ever studied for an exam or a test? Um, I'm sure that most people have. So some years ago, given my background in management engineering and management and economics, I really wanted to get into a very good business school. And to get into business school, so you need to take a standardized test called GMAT. And so I went to a prep company, and that's where I learned something very interesting. So many test takers, they get very angry or very sad when they make mistakes. But this prep company was telling them, you shouldn't be angry when you make a mistake. You should be actually very happy because that mistake is showing you exactly where you need to work more so that you don't get this question wrong the next time. And I thought that's very cool because this is not the way that I was used to see mistakes and problems in my preparation. And I think that you can apply the same concept in life. Whenever something comes up in your relationship, in your marriage, or in your family, try to reframe it and be happy about it because you're like, okay, there was this underlying issue that has always been there, and finally I am aware of it, and now I can work on it so that it doesn't happen again, so that we can have a better relationship.
Okay.
Um,
All right. From your experience of being in the field of relationship coaching, what factors do you think are the reasons of why relationships are failing?
okay. As I mentioned before, one big reason is the fear of abandonment. I think that we are stuck too often in survival mode,
Mm-hmm.
and we are afraid that what we are going to say next is going to jeopardize our relationship. A little bit like when you are in a job interview.
Yeah.
You're just trying to say the right things and you are refraining from saying anything risky because you don't want to hurt,
Yeah.
your application. And this might be okay in the first period of the relationship, when you're getting to know each other, you are dating, you're trying to make a good impression, it's nice, it's fun. But as time goes, you really want to get to know each other and you really need to overcome this fear of abandonment. And the point is that in families, for me, it's very easy because, as I mentioned before, there is no way that the parent doesn't love their kids, even if there are like very big problems in the family. When I confront parents or children and I ask them, even if you're going through all these struggles, do you deep down love each other? Can you find that place in you? The answer is always yes, because there is no alternative. Like, even if you have problems with your father, there is always going to be that part of you that loves him. Even if you have problems with your children, or no matter what they do, no matter how much they disappoint you, they are always going to be your children. That's not going to change. So um, that fear of abandonment in families, um, it's in a way very silly. But of course, you need to work on it because, as I said before, too often we find each other in a conditional love situation and not unconditional love. I always make the example of the family of doctors or lawyers. When your father is a lawyer, your grandfather is a lawyer, your great grandfather was a lawyer, and so on. You grow up with the expectation from all the family that you are going to be a lawyer, you know. And if you want to do something different, it is, it is going to be very clear that you are going to disappoint everybody.
Mm,
So this is something that you need to work, either with me or with your own family alone. You need to make sure that you are in that unconditional love
mm,
uh, situation in which no matter what you are going to do, whether you're going to end up being a professional football player or a math teacher, that's going to be okay.
mm,
Because at the end of the day, your parents will always love you. But if they don't tell you, no matter what you are going to do, we are always going to love you, you are going to grow up designed to be a lawyer. And because you don't want to disappoint your parents, you will probably go down that path, which is unhealthy for you. And the same is in relationships. There is a point in your relationship in which you need to ask yourself, where is this going? Is it serious? Like, because you want to build a life with someone that loves you for who you are, not because you're a successful banker, a successful writer, or a successful whatsoever. You need to ask yourself, why am I in this relationship? So you want to be in a relationship with someone that will love you, whether you are the most successful person on the planet, or whether things don't work for you. Because at the end of the day, these things don't matter in a relationship. They don't matter when you talk about love for each other. So you know, I'm uh, I'm in love with my partner, and whether she is going to be that or nothing, for me, it doesn't make the slightest difference because our relationship is based on the love. So you need to ask yourself that question, and if the answer is that you love each other unconditionally, you need to start telling yourself that. You need to start reassuring yourself that no matter what happens, you're always going to be there for each other. And the problem is that we don't do that enough, or we don't do that at all. We never
yeah.
tell our significant other, look, I know that we both have a good job and everything, but if for some reason you lose your job, or if some reason you want to completely change your life, I'm always going to be there for you, because I don't love you because of your job or because of this and that. I love you because of who you are.
Right.
And when you create this trust, when you create this safe place, you know, those fears of being abandoned and rejected, they fade away. And this is how relationships should grow, with mutual reassurance, with mutual trust.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned something very profound in the fact that people should love you for who you are,
yeah,
not for what you are. Big
exactly.
difference. A lot of people, I think, get caught up in the fact that, oh, well, this person's an attorney. Oh, well, this
Mhm.
person's an athlete. I don't know. They fall in love with that. They
Right.
don't fall in love with the person. And because of that materialistic need or desire, those relationships fail, and they fail bad, because eventually either the other person is going to realize, hey, I'm being hoodwinked by this person that only wants me for what I can provide. They don't love me for who I am. You know what I mean? And it's not going to end well. It's just not going to end well. And I think that a lot of I'm not going to say a lot of people, but I do think that there's people out here who uh they have these expectations
Mhm.
of what a relationship is to them. There's people out here who they want a six-figure earner.
Right.
There's people out here who want, the big house, the picket fence, and that's okay. But if you're basing love on materialistic needs, that's not love. That's not. That's lust. That's authentic lust. You know what I mean? Because you're chasing something, and like I said again, there's nothing wrong with wanting good stuff. There's nothing wrong with chasing a financial goal. But
Mhm.
if your method of achieving that goal is to convince somebody else to supply that need for you, that's not authentic. That's fake, right?
Yeah.
And that's not love. That's not love. That's something else. That's really something else. And I don't see that ending well, you know. Uh Eduardo, I'm sure that you've counseled a lot of people in your time as a coach. Can you give me a success story?
Absolutely. Um, I think about it.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I just want to.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I would like to talk about honestly about my own experience with my family because I think that this is the reason that brought me here, and I would really love to give the audience an example of how things can improve in your own family. Um, so one of the reasons why we were unhappy as a family, and there were many, but one very profound reason is that we weren't understanding each other's. Um, and in particular, my parents were not happy with me and my sister
Mm,
because they thought that we didn't show them enough appreciation. No, I was born in I wouldn't say super wealthy family. We were comfortable, me and my sister. As we grew up, we were very lucky. Our parents were able to provide us, with a very good house, very good education, everything that we needed. If we wanted to uh, play tennis, we could. If we wanted to ski in the mountains, we could. Um, and um, and for us, all these things were quite normal. It was the normality because we were born in that situation. But for our parents, that wasn't the normality at all, because they came from much more difficult financial situations, and they had to work very, very hard day and night to get to that point in which um, they were able to provide all of these things for the family. Um, the problem was is that they never told us that, and so we were never able to understand um, the meaning of all these gestures, of all the things that they were providing,
mm,
uh, providing for us. And as soon as they told us, we were firstly surprised and shocked because we thought, wait, did you really take that personal? I mean, we didn't mean to hurt you, and of course we're grateful,
Mm.
but we didn't know how important it was for them, and they suffered so much for so many years because of that, because we never talked about that. On the opposite side, me and my sister were suffering a lot because we didn't hear from our parents, the three magic words, we love you, we are proud of you, like these direct ways of showing affection. And we suffered a lot. And when we confronted our parents with it, they were as well shocked and surprised because they told us, of course, we love you. Of course, we're proud of you, no matter what you do. But because we never heard of it, we felt very bad about it. And on one hand, there were my parents, our parents trying to show us love by giving us everything that they never had in their lives. And on the other hand, it was me and my sister who were waiting for our parents to say, I love you, but we didn't see that they were saying that in another language. So as soon as we talked about all of this, things started getting so much better because on one side, our parents started saying, I love you, started hugging us, started saying we're proud of you no matter what you do in your life, which for us was amazing because it was the first time that we heard it. It was the first time that we felt it, in our hearts. And at the same time, we started appreciating much more our parents for the things that they were providing us because finally we understood the meaning and the weight that our parents were giving to all these things that they were
Mm.
providing for us.
Mm.
So this was a very profound change in our family because you move from a place in which you don't feel loved, you don't understand why, and you have been suffering a lot for so many years to an aha moment in which you realize it looks much more as a huge misunderstanding, and we should have talked about it years ago because the love is there. We weren't just being able to see it.
Yeah.
And I consider this a huge success story because, what I always say in so many relationships and in family, love is there, but because we never talk, we are never able to see that. And
Yeah. Yeah. So what's next for you in your journey, Edoardo?
well, for me, next in my journey is to help as many families and relationships as possible. Of course, I can share with you that I have encountered some challenges because there are many people in a family or in a relationship that are in denial
Mm.
because the fears are so strong that they convince themselves that actually everything is good and that there is no problem, even if their special someone is feeling very bad, is suffering, and has contacted me to get help. Um, so I would say that the next step that I'm trying to tackle is to finding ways to bring people in denial to be comfortable enough to sit at the table and have the discussion. And one way in which I'm starting to approach the problem is to offer a pay only when you're satisfied policy, because so many people are in denial. So many people, they are too afraid even to approach the subject. And I think that in this way, I give my clients full control. So if you are happy, you can feel free to pay for my services. But
Mm.
if you are not happy, at worst, you wasted a couple of hours of your time. And again, if you are not happy and the things are not working for you, I'm also not happy and I don't want to charge you. So
Okay. How can people contact you?
easiest way is through my website,
Yeah.
edoardoguidali.com, which I hope is going to be present in the description of this video because my name
Yes,
is
it is.
very difficult. I
Yes,
don't
it is.
expect people to remember it. And of course, you can have a look at my social medias. I am on Instagram and TikTok, so feel free to have a look there. And I hope to talk to you soon.
All right. Relationship coach, Edoardo, last name?
Guidali.
Guidali. Edoardo Guidali. Thank you so much for taking the time to, come on and speak with me about this particular topic, because it's good to hear from a professional, um, the possibilities of how we as people can navigate through conflict, right? Uh, Conflict resolution, as is professionally said. But from a relationship standpoint, I do think that we need to take some introspective and really understand that there are things that we need to get in order within ourselves so that we can get our relationships in order. So uh, you guys heard them. I do thank you again for coming on and sharing that knowledge. It was well received by me. I can tell you that for sure. Uh, Eduardo, I like to extend the option of coming back and you know talking with me again about your work and your uh experiences of working with people and the help that you provide. So that door is always open for you, brother.
Thank you very much, Mark. It was a
Yeah,
pleasure being here. And of course, I would love to keep talking with you about this topic. As you can
yeah,
see, I'm very passionate and I can really talk about communication for
indeed,
hours. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again then.
indeed, indeed. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Remember, self-care is important. So please make your mental health and your physical health a priority. Do it every day and do it first. With that being said, I'm out. Eduardo, you have a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, you also have a good day as well. Bye bye, everybody.